والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم إني أسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. So today's name is slightly more, it's not as, as clear in its meaning as one like when we saw Al-Malik or Rahman or Rahim, even Al-Quddus to an extent, As-Salam. These were all names that one immediately understood, like, oh, As-Salam means like peace, or, Quddus means high. So the name that we're going to cover today is Al-Mu'min. So what do you think would this name mean, Al-Mu'min? Usually we refer to the ins, mankind, right? Mu'mineen, Mu'min, but this is Allah's name. So linguistically, it has two different meanings, and they are from the Arabic words tasdeeq and aman. So for those of you who are familiar with the Arabic language, how many of you are familiar with the Arabic language? No one? Okay. So when we say at-tasdeeq, I validate this for you, I endorse this for you, I give you proof for this, like your attendance is a tasdeeq for your participation in class, for example, right? You sat for the exam, that sitting for the exam is a tasdeeq, is a proof that you completed whatever coursework that was needed to be done, okay? So in that sense, mu'min, mim, hamza, noon, means validation or endorsement. It also means safety or security, which is the word aman. So I'm not talking about iman, and I'm not talking about amin. These are three different words. Amin, do you guys know what amin means? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sadiq and amin, right? So, sorry? Is it trustworthy? Trustworthy. Amin is trustworthy, right? And iman is faith, right? Aman is security. So it's the opposite, it's safety and security, it's the opposite of the word khawf, fear. Okay? So that's like a little, it doesn't come to you very naturally when you think of the word mu'min. You wouldn't think of the word tasdeeq, or you wouldn't think of the word aman. But that's where what the background is, that it's talking about validation, and it's talking about endorsement, and it's talking about safety and security. So that's, just the linguistic side. Obviously, what pertains to us is how this name, what does it mean when we use it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's come as Al-Mu'min is the one who grants safety from the hellfire. And this goes back to that, how we had divided the two meanings. So one was the tasdeeq, the endorsement and validation, and the other was safety, right? So grantor of safety from hellfire. So Al-Mu'min is the one who is the grantor of safety. Al-Mu'min is also the one who is the provider of proof. That's the tasdeeq part. This is the provider, he is the provider of proof for what has been promised to the mu'mineen. There are several things that have been promised to the people of paradise. There are several things that have been promised to the kuffar and mushrikeen too. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his name Al-Mu'min, Ghazali rahimahullah also defines Al-Mu'min as the faithful. So who is the faithful? Like a faithful, when you say, oh, he's faithful, what does that mean? What might that mean? The one is faithful. Sorry? Oh, I thought someone said something. My daughter isn't here today. She usually answers all my questions, but she's not here today. She wasn't feeling well. So both of the meanings that we spoke about in the first slide, all of them are sort of coming here in one way or the other. So he's the grantor of safety from hellfire. He's also a provider of proof for what has been promised to the mu'mineen, and he's also a provider of proof for what has been promised to the kuffar and the mushrikeen. So the name Al-Mu'min has just been mentioned in the Quran once, and we've talked about this ayah, I think last few times, because we did Malik from here, we did Quddus, we did Salam. Is it broken? Okay, good. When you fix it, give it back. So we've done Al-Malik, we've done Quddus, we've done Salam, and today we're doing Mu'min. So it has been mentioned only once in the Quran. Okay? But what are the things that we should think about when we consider the name Al-Mu'min? So the first thing that I wanted us to think about was that when we talk about the concept of tasdeeq, or the concept of providing proof, so the universe is full of proof from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That is how this name is pertinent to Him. You know how we were saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala validates or provides proof? So how has He provided proof of His existence? He's provided proof of His existence throughout the universe, externally and within us, within ourselves, in our body, internally. So that is apparent in this ayah, Surah Al-Fussilat. Would you please silence your phones? Thank you. Jazakallah khair. So Fussilat 53. سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق في أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق أولم يكفي بربك أنه على كل شيء شهيد. We will show them our signs in the universe and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that this is the truth. Is it not enough that your Lord is a witness over all things? It's okay. Is it done? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Sanurihum, we will show them ayatina, our signs, fil afaqi. Afaq means the universe. Okay? And it literally, linguistically, it actually means all sides of the universe. Just imagine, like the universe, we actually don't even know how big the universe is. Right? There's so many galaxies that haven't even been discovered. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that we will show them our signs in all sides of the universe. Just try to comprehend that. Like up, down, side, like there are signs everywhere. And not just in the universe, but within themselves too. Until it becomes clear to them, hatta yatabayyana lahum, until it becomes clear to them, annahu al-haq. Guys, either sit down or stay out. You can't keep coming and going. Okay, I get distracted and I forget what I'm saying. Okay, so حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ. So until it becomes apparent to him, to us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the truth. أَوَلَمْ يَكْفِي بِرَبِّكَ أَنَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدٌ. Is it not enough that your Lord is a witness of all things? Is it not enough for us? So when we talk about, like, you know, we spoke about the universe, but just imagine like every single thing, big or small in the universe, is a testament, is a proof of Allah's existence. But when we talk about within ourselves, like just if we just take a look at our body, just for example, something as small as our eye. Like if you think of our eye in relation to the rest of our body, what do you think the ratio is? Like it's very, very small, right? But just the eye itself, it has like, what was it, 130 million light cells in it, just one eye. And one human eye can see 10 billion colors. Just imagine the spectrum. It's just incomprehensible, right? Think about the ear. Okay, you know, it's so small. And just think about all the hills and valleys that are there. Has anybody wondered why the ear is shaped the way it is? Any doctors over here? Medical backgrounds? But you know how there are hills and valleys, right? Literally, our ear. It's shaped like that so that it helps us perceive sound in the way it was meant to be heard. It bounces against the hills and valleys, against the highs and the depressions, and that is why we hear sound the way we hear it. So everything in our body, like there's a reason for it, right? Just imagine, like, whenever I don't know how many of you like watch movies, but if you look at those cartoons like with aliens in it, and you see how they are, with just two holes or like just one big eye, right? Can you, like, what would have mattered had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us like that? Like, did He really have to beautify us also? He could have had two holes. We could have had one hole over here, two holes here. They would still serve the same purpose. We would be able to hear and smell and see. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beautified it so that we would look pleasing to other people. So these are all signs in the afaq and within us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, and there is, certainly a being that's higher than everything else who's controlling all of this. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent proof of His existence through His prophets. So we're talking about how Al-Mu'min has provided proof of Himself. That's what this whole class is about, right? Because we're talking about the name Al-Mu'min, and first we talked about how He has provided proof in the universe for us. Then we talked about how He's provided proof within our bodies of His existence. And now we're talking about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent proof of His existence through His messengers, through His prophets. So, for example, in Al-Imran 49, وَرَسُولًا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ أَنِّي قَدْ جِئْتُكُمْ بِآيَاتٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. So, this ayah 49 is pretty long. It's in relation to Isa alayhi salam. And Isa alayhi salam, when he was speaking to his people, he said, I have come to you with a sign from your Lord. I will make the shape of a bird for you out of clay. Are we familiar with the story of how Isa alayhi salam told people about the different miracles that he had, right, that he could do? So this is that ayah. So we're talking about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent proof of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's existence through His messengers and through His prophets. So I will make the shape of a bird for you out of clay, then breathe into it. With God's permission, it will become a real bird. This was a mu'jiza in itself, right? This was a miracle. It's not possible for anybody to just do that, right? It will become a real bird. I will heal the blind and the leper. We know that Isa alayhi salam had those qualities where he could put his hand and heal someone with leprosy, and he could also give back sight to the blind, and bring the dead back to life with God's permission. I will tell you what you may eat and what you may store up in your houses. He's talking about the ahkam of what is haram and what is halal over here. There truly is a sign for you in this if you are a believer in things. So again, like we were saying, this is one of the ways Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provide proof of His name, that is Al-Mu'min. Also, there is proof in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fulfills His promises, right? He's promised so many things to us. How do we know that those promises are going to be fulfilled? Is there any proof in the Quran? I mean, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could have just told us that, yeah, you'll get to Jannah and you'll get to Jahannam. But do we have any proof of that? We've never seen Jannah or Jahannam, right? But we know that there's proof of it because we believe that the ayahs of the Quran are obviously the tasdeeq. The ayahs of the Quran are the proof that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent to us. So, Surah Al-Araf 44, and there are several exchanges like these between the people of Jahannam and the people of Jannah, the people of paradise and the people of hellfire. Once we get there, there are several exchanges that take place between these two groups. One of them is وَنَادَى أَصْحَابُ الْجَنَّةِ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ أَنْ قَدْ وَجَدْنَا مَا وَعَدَنَا رَبَّنَا حَقًّا فَهَلْ وَجَدْتُم مَا وَعَدَ رَبُّكُمْ حَقًّا. The residents of paradise will call out to the residents of fire. Now just imagine this scene in your mind if you can, with our limited imagination capacity. Like the people of paradise are calling out, although hell and heaven, Jahannam and Jannah are going to be far apart, but we know through the ayahs in the Quran that there are going to be places where you would still be able to talk to each other, you'll still be able to hear each other, right? So the people of the paradise are calling out to the people of Jahannam, to the people of hellfire, that we found what Allah had promised us. Did you? Did you find what Allah had promised you? And then they go on to say, have you too found your Lord's promise to be true? They will reply, yes, we have. Then a caller will announce to both, may Allah's condemnation be upon the wrongdoers. La'anatullah. La'anatullah ala al-zalimin. This is it, you can't do anything now. So there's another beautiful ayah in Surah As-Saffat, it's ayah 55. Imagine two friends who were friends in dunya. In the world, they were two friends. And this is mentioned in the ayah. One of them was a believer, and one of them was a non-believer. And they were friends in Jannah. They were friends in dunya when they were alive. After they die, and after, the scrolls are read and everybody is placed where they need to be, the friend that ended up in Jannah, he goes out looking for his friend. Because he's like, where did he go? Did he come with me to Jannah? Just imagine, we get to Jannah and we're trying to find our loved ones, our friends. And we're like, we used to sit and chat and have tea at Taza. Like, is he still here? Like, what are we going to do now? Right? So he goes and he starts looking for him. And where does he find him? He finds him in Jahannam. He finds his friend in Jahannam, and he's in the midst of Jahannam, obviously going through torment and, hellfire. So he says to his friend, he curses him. He says, La'natullah alayk, you ended up here, and I used to tell you to follow the straight path, and you tried to, tell me that no, there is no accountability, there is no Yawm al-Qiyamah, there is no day of judgment, there is no paradise, there is no hellfire. But look, now I believed and you didn't, and I am in Jannah and you're in Jahannam. What now? And the friend will have nothing to say. All those arguments that we hear from people over here in the dunya when we're trying to, convince our friends, when we're trying to talk to them, over here you have so much kalam, you have so many arguments, you have so many words. Over there, nothing. He won't be able to say anything at that time. And the friend who ended up in Jannah, he's actually going to say, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah alladhi hadani. Alhamdulillah, gratitude to Allah who guided me. So I didn't listen to you and I ended up in Jannah. So several such exchanges between the residents of paradise and that of hellfire. Another one in Surah Al-Zumar, وَقَالُوا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي صَدَقَنَا وَعْدَهُ وَأَوْرَثْنَا الْأَرْضَ نَتَّبِعُ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ حَيْثُ نَشَاءُ فَنِعْمَ الْأَجْرُ الْعَامِلِينَ. And they will say, praise be to God who has kept his promise to us and given us this land as our own. Which land is being talked about? Jannah. Now we may live wherever we please. The really pretty word over here is natabawwa'u. So what does this word mean? It means you can wherever we want. So that means, Mufassirin said, that it's not like you're just getting this piece of area and you're in Jannah inshallah, and you're like, okay, this is your allocated land and that's it. Do whatever you want, stay in this area. No, we will be able to visit one another and go wherever we want in Jannah and be able to visit and have Like whatever form of vacation there'll be no work, so probably we all be vacation. But it's just the concept is that you'll be able to go wherever you please. And how excellent is the reward of those who labor. How excellent is the reward of those who work hard in this dunya. Again, in Surah Al-An'am, it is those who have faith and do not mix their faith with idolatry. Like what is that? Shirk, right? Who will be secure? It is they who are rightly guided. So the ayahs before this one, before in Surah Al-An'am, like 80, 81, they talk about the day of judgment and the horn, the day of judgment and the horn. There's going to be, what do you call? I don't want to use the word wrong, but when the sound of the horn is going to come, and then everybody is going to be gathered together in one place, right? And then the scrolls are going to be read, and everybody is going to go where they're supposed to be. After that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the people who had faith and did not mix their faith. So yalbisu, labisa is actually like to wear or to mix. So when this ayah was revealed, the companions, they got a little worried because they said that, which one of us doesn't do dhulm? See, it says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ. Like, bidhulm is like, if you just do like a literal translation, it means, wrongdoers, right? So they went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they said, which one of us doesn't sin, like small sins or just dhulm? And so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that this is talking about shirk, right? So the important thing to notice over here is that it says yalbis, to mix. So we're not really talking about idol worshippers. We're not talking about people who don't believe in Allah at all. We're talking about people who mix some form of shirk with their iman. You get what I'm saying? Like, because when you look at this, you say, oh, alhamdulillah, like I don't worship idols. I believe in Allah. I'm not, I don't do shirk. But we're not talking about people who just are worshipping idols and who are just, not believing in Allah at all. We're talking about those people who in their everyday lives end up mixing some form of shirk in their iman. Can we think of like ways we do that? We end up doing that in our everyday lives. Can you guys think of ways that we actually end up, like I can give you one example, like just, number 7 is my lucky number. Oh, it's raining. That means such and such.
Blessing.
Right? Well, I mean, there is barakah in rain. That's, we know that. But, have you guys heard of the word omen? Right? To take omens, to take signs. Right? Oh, a black cat came. Like, I have 2 black cats in my house. Like, in that way, my house would be like, na'udhu forever cursed. But obviously, we don't believe that, right? So, but you must have heard this. You pass under a ladder and you say, oh, something bad's going to happen. So do we have like asnam in our house? Do we have idols in our house and we're, God forbid, worshipping them? No. But in our everyday lives, we do all these small things. What are we really doing? We're ascribing something else, right? We're saying, the weather is responsible for the good, the khair, right? Or if a black cat crosses my path, that means something bad is going to happen, right? Or even these amulets, a lot of people wear threads. A lot of people wear, threads on their wrists. I mean, all these things are basically you're mixing your iman with you're associating something else. You're giving something else that power. You're giving something else that authority. So this is also something for us to think about because, in the beginning, like I said, you'll read this ayah and you're like, alhamdulillah, we're not one of those. But if you really start thinking about it, we talk about luck so much, right? There's no such thing as good luck and bad luck. It's misfortune and fortune. And we really should be more careful in how we word ourselves, Oh, it was such luck that this happened. Oh, it was such a great coincidence that happened. You really think there's a coincidence in anything? There's no coincidence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has planned things in a certain way, and they're just happening now, right? So all these things, inshallah, we can try and be a little more careful about to see if we're not mixing, are we mixing our iman with something else? Moving forward. So this is another one when the Day of Judgment, again they talk about the Day of Judgment and how everybody will be gathered, and then the amal will be read, and it says man jaa bil hasanati falahu khayrum minha wa hum min faza'un yawma idhin aminun. Whoever comes with a good deed will be rewarded with something better. So jaa bil hasana, if you do one good deed, one ihsan, falahu khayrum minha, you're actually going to get something better than that, right? Faza'a, linguistically, it means like a calamity, like a great calamity or adversity. So we're talking about, obviously, the Yawm al-Qiyamah, we're talking about the Day of Judgment. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that this is again a proof, a guarantee from Him that all those people who will come, on the Day of Judgment with good deeds, they will get something even better in return, and that day they will be safe, they will be secure from the hellfire, they will be secure from the anxiety of that day, from the torment of that day, from the adversity of that day. Lastly, we've talked about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided proof of His existence through the universe, through the human body, through His messengers, through His ayahs in the Quran. What about a Muslim? Like, if I'm fasting, would you know I'm fasting? Right? Right? Okay. If I'm praying, that's probably like outwardly you can see I'm praying. But fasting, or even just being conscious, like taqwa. Can you measure my taqwa? No, right? These are all inwardly things. What is that proof? What is that outwardly proof that I need to show to, that will prove that I have iman? Can you think of something? The amal, actions, okay? The actions. Even salah is for yourself, right? It's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I could pray inside a room, nobody would know. The proof that Muslims need to provide is, for his iman, is his actions. There's a hadith of Abu Hurairah where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, by Allah, he said, Wallah la yu'min, and he said this 3 times. By Allah, he is not a believer. By Allah, he is not a believer. When they asked him, who is that, Rasulullah? He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one whose neighbor does not feel safe from his evil. Like one, and we've heard this hadith, right? A Muslim is not a Muslim till others do not feel safe from his hands and his tongue. Right? So his neighbor doesn't necessarily mean like if I say, okay, he's not my next door neighbor, that means I can throw stones at the one across the street because he's technically not my neighbor. No, neighbor is just anybody who, your jar, your jawareh, anybody who you're with. Like you can be my neighbors too when we're praying upstairs, in the sufuf. You are my neighbors, right? So, whose neighbor does not feel safe from evil, that person is not a believer, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying. Like, I've sometimes when we're standing in the saf, and we are trying to get our space, and we, sometimes like, move the other person a little bit more. I mean, just think about those small actions that you're making. That person is your neighbor. Instead of like standing a little more, compress yourself and give the person more space. If you can see the person needs more space, instead, what do? We like stretch ourselves more, and mark our territory, right? Huh? Yeah, or you start pushing them, to make more space. So those are all your neighbors. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Wallahi la yu'min." He is not a believer. If from his evil, from his shar, if his neighbor is not safe. And finally, you all know I always try to leave all of you with a dua. I should take a quiz, right? Of all the ones I've already. Miguel is like, yeah, one day.
I tell Sheikh Farhan to do quizzes all the time.
You're not telling me to do it. Anyway, I'm just kidding. These du'as are obviously for all of you to benefit from. For I see a lot of new faces in this, today. So this was the 7th name that we've covered, and usually there's a certain pattern that we follow. Just to give you a little background, we talk about what the name means, like the dictionary meaning, the qamos. Then we talk about how it relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we talk about how, like, what do we do with the name? Like, how can we benefit from the name? And then we try to end our class with a dua that has used that name, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name, so that for the whole week, inshallah, we can sort of include it in our azkar and, think about the name more. So this dua is not a masnoon dua. It's Sheikh Ahmad Aqad. He mentioned it in his book, Anwar al-Qudsiyah. So it's really beautiful. He says, Ilahi, tajalli li bi nuri ismik al-mu'min hatta anasa bika fi sirri wa fi uluni wa zahiri wa batini. Anasa is such a beautiful word. It means to provide ease or, a solace. Have you heard of the word solace? So to provide comfort, to provide peace, to provide ease to my heart. So, my Lord, reveal to me with the light of your name, tajalli bi nuri ismik al-mu'min, hatta, until, anasa bika, so I may find ease, so I may find solace, fi sirri, in private, wa fi uluni, in public, wa zahiri, in my outwardly affairs, wa batini, in my inwardly affairs. I thought this was such a beautiful dua. I mean, it's part of a much longer dua, but I just took if anybody is interested in that. But it's such a small dua, and really you can use any name. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is any name, right? You could put as-salam over there. But yeah, I found this really, beautiful. So inshallah, I hope that all of you can try and remember this name. And when we talk about al-mu'min, I feel like quizzing you guys today. Can I?
Oh, I hate school. So.
Okay, tell me one thing that you were taking away from this class. Tell me one thing like al-mu'min. When I say al-mu'min, or in the coming week, maybe I should do this every class. In the coming 7 days till we meet again and we do al-muhaymin, inshallah. So al-mu'min, when you say al-mu'min, what comes to your mind now after you've taken the class? Anybody can say anything. Safety.
Proof.
Yeah. Proof. Carefully. Okay. I heard some of the sisters saying something.
Yes, proof of iman, like.
Yeah. Proof of your iman. Yes. That really stuck, right? Because we don't think about that, and we always talk about proof of like Allah's existence. We talk about proof of Jannah, we talk about proof of Jahannam, but what about proof of our iman? What about that part, right? So inshallah, I hope that we will all benefit from this name. Sorry? Oh. Inshallah, we'll end at that. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.